worst of it, they were supposed to be God's people. That were doing all this stuff to us.
Red Deer itself had a residential school. It was called the Red Deer Indian Industrial School, and it is across the river on private property from Fort Normandeau, or it was. It operated from 1893 to 1919 when it was closed. I know that they brought children from the north, mostly, to the Red Deer Industrial School. I think one of the reasons they did that was distance between them and their family, though their families did come to the school. They worked clearing land, they worked producing food, which they sold, probably used to feed themselves. They may have produced other items to support the school, and they did attend classes, not for the entire day, but probably half a day. The industrial school story is told at the museum, and it is told here at Fort Normandeau. We also know that during the flu epidemic, between 1918 and 1919, that there were a number of children who died at the school and who were buried in the Red Deer Cemetery, and not in the cemetery that still exists on the site where the industrial school sat. Those children were buried in the Red Deer Cemetery because there was no one to bury them at the time because everybody was sick. Those graves are going to be commemorated with a marker this year, which is being provided by the Remembering the Children Society, so that their graves will finally have a marker and people will realize that they are buried there. We know that within our community of Red Deer that we have residential school survivors. Two of them being Bertha and Rosina, who are both very active as volunteers within the First Nations community, as Kokums and as elders who provide teachings and advice and continuing on traditions. We have recorded and filmed Rosina and Bertha's stories of their residential school experiences to understand what those experiences were, how it affected them and their families, and how they use those experiences today to help other people.
Yeah. Okay. My name is Bertha Poor. My maiden name is Ironstan. And I was born in Manitoba on a reserve called Valley River Reserve. It's now called Tutuwazabing. They changed the name. But I only lived there for 3 years of my life. And then my father died, and my mom moved away from the reserve. She moved to North Battleford, Saskatchewan, with 4 of us. There was 4 of us in the family. She'd done that because she thought maybe we wouldn't have to go to the residential school. But in the 1940s, I think it was 42, when a priest and the police came out to my grandpa's place and come and got I and my sister. We were all dirty and playing outside. We didn't know what was happening. They just come and got us, took us by the hand, put us in this little car, and took us to the school. The school was called Delmas. It was about maybe 50 miles from where my grandpa lived.
Go like this when I'm ready. Hi, my name is Rosina Margaret Winnie. Pichowers was my maiden name. I was born in Saskatchewan. The reserve I was from was Mr. Wash's Reserve. And I came from a good home. And then next thing I knew, my whole world changed and we were hauled to residential school. That being in residential school didn't help me at all, nothing. It just, my whole world just crushed, and the way we were treated. Lack of education, we were spent working. The whole day would be in the laundry or dining room, sewing room, kitchen. And there was a lot of abuse. The food was terrible. We also had my brother there, but we weren't allowed to see him. I would just wave at him from a distance. That's all I can, that's the only contact I had with him.
Diane Rollader. I'm Rosina Winnie's daughter. I'm sure it affected her more than she ever let on to us. We always knew that Mom went to residential school, but we never really discussed it, or she didn't discuss it. We never really questioned her on it. It was only later on when the Truth and Reconciliation hearing started and she became more involved with these projects that, we started to hear a little bit more from her.
About it? Okay, whenever you're ready. Okay, my name's Everett Poor. My mother is Bertha Poor, whose maiden name was actually Bertha Ironstand. Well, basically, as my mother said, my grandfather would try to send them to school. And this is probably very young, probably 5, 6 years old, beginning of school. And when they would go to school, and pardon my French, I don't know if it's correct, but it'd be "Va tu petite sauvage" is what the nuns would come out and say to them every day. Go away, you little savage. And it would send them away from the school. So basically, they didn't have the opportunity to attend a public school.
There's so many things that I can say, but it was just a horrible thing for me. My life was ruined. It ruined my life. To this day, it's still, it's affecting me. And my grandpa and my mom asked them not to cut my hair, but that was the first thing they done when I got there, cut my hair. So that made me really sick. I was sick for a whole month in bed. The doctor came to see me, and he said I had a broken heart. I was really abused. I was abused every kind of way you can think of. Even the other girls molested me. We used to go down, we had our bathroom downstairs, and we used to go down there to go to the bathroom, and this girl would be standing there. She'd wait for you and grab you and try to feel you, touch you all over. But I never did tell. I never did tell on her because I was afraid of her. She was a big girl. I never told on her. And all through these years, I dream about that. I'm trying to get up that stairs and I can't run. Somebody's after me. And that's probably, I'm thinking about that.
I suspect it's about 1941 they actually run away. My mother and my aunt run away from school. They go back to North Battleford, back to their grandparents and their mother. The RCMP come, and basically my grandfather is going to get his shotgun to try to keep the children at home. And I'm not sure if it was my great-grandmother or my grandmother that basically dissuaded him from doing that, because basically he would have ended up in jail, in prison for doing that. So they are taken by police car back to, at this point, Onion Lake. Which is in north of Lloydminster. And the reason that I understand that was done was because it's too far for them to run away again. So they end up in St. Anthony's, which is Onion Lake. And the records that I could find indicated that they were there from about 1942 to about 1948. My aunt would have been there longer because she was younger. I'm not sure exactly when she would have been discharged, but she would have been, my mother definitely from about early 40s to the late 40s, she would have been in St. Anthony's.
Hit the first track. I guess that's when we went to Duck Lake. We had no idea where we were going, just to run away. From Duck Lake, of course, they notified the school, our school. The maintenance man came and got us. And he knew we were going to get a strapping. Laid us on our beds and our nightgowns. The principal comes in with a big strap. I remember putting something in his mouth to keep his froth. Ugh, I remember. And he's strapped and strapped. Next day, we had to scrub floors in our nightgowns. Our hands and knees. We never saw a mop in that school. We all have to hands and knees scrubbing floors.
My dad is Frank Winnie. He's from Six Nations Reserve out in Ontario, and we're from the Lower Cayuga tribe. Very proud of my dad as well. He faced a lot of life's obstacles, and one of them was, Dad, I don't know if I should say that, but Dad faced a lot of stuff too, but he's a good dad. My name is Anne Marie Hall, and my mom is Rosina Winnie. Like, to hear the stories Mom told us, like the first time she saw a vehicle was when they came to take her away. Or, they get strapped for being, if they were caught speaking Cree, or she would see her siblings, her brothers across the room, but she couldn't talk to them or see them. Like, we can't comprehend that. Like, I'm a mom, and my son is 10 years old. I cannot imagine someone saying he has to go away. I can't imagine that.
they cut our hair, bangs here, long here, and short up there. And we all lined up. Matron was cutting the hair, and the principal was standing there. Next cuckoos, cuckoos means a pig, eh? He said that. Next cuckoos, that was me. Oh, she knows what I'm talking about, he says. That's what we had to live with. We all gave them 3 names because, you know, his name was Mr. Ellis. Max Dagon, he was a short little guy, and we called him Machamanto. Machamanto's the devil.
The one thing people say is like, well, they got an education. You know, some of them turned out to be doctors, lawyers, teachers, but the effects of the sexual and the physical abuse and the torment that they faced, you know, unfortunately, they turned around, some of them, to be abusers themselves. And that's carried on, you know, the alcoholism, all that. It's hard, like we have to, I think the one thing is Mom chose to forgive. She says, I'm not living in that bondage anymore because I chose to forgive. And that's how she moves forward. And I would hope others can do that too, as hard as it is.
But for my father, no, he never spoke about it at all growing up, at all. It just wasn't something that was spoken about in the family.
Our culture was not passed to us. We never learned to speak Cree. We've never really taken up the native arts that Mom does with her beading and her moose hair tufting. I don't know, residential school, I think there's long-term effects to that we don't even know yet. So, but I'm very proud of the way my mom lived her life, and her forgiveness for what she went through was, that really makes us stronger.
Today we recognize that this policy of assimilation was wrong, has caused great harm, and has no place in our country. The Government of Canada sincerely apologizes and asks the forgiveness of the Aboriginal peoples of this country for failing them so profoundly. We are sorry.